The Topeka and Shawnee County Public Library is really special.
I always kind of looked at a piece of architecture is a large piece of sculpture that people can do things in. It's not, just a structure to cover your head. It goes a little, deeper than that.
Michael Graves, as with a lot of architects, are not just looking at a structure that will, keep the weather off of you, keep you warm, keep you dry, and so forth. They're looking at doing something that is basically an aesthetic expression of their ideas, their thoughts as a sculptor. It's the largest type of sculpture, architecture. You can't get anything bigger than that. Michael Graves is, I look upon as being more on the conservative side of contemporary architecture, but one that does use all sorts of architectural elements from the past, which has been termed as postmodernism. You'll see ideas that may come from Palladio, British architects of the 18th century. The idea of using different types of materials in different ways is brought up, particularly by Michael Graves.
There are 3 different colors of bricks used outside along the facade of the building.
Then you have 2 other materials. A very light limestone
Is filled with a grayish limestone material. The top of the tower over the rotunda is clad in copper.
There were 2 ways of getting a copperish green patina such as the dome on the Capitol building. One of them was to spend another $10,000 or more for the patina to be done at the time of construction.
The other is to let it age on its own over a period of years. Supposedly, it was to start turning green by now, but it hasn't. One thing that people probably don't notice at all that Michael Graves put into his architectural design specifications was something like the pink mortar. Rather than having a stark whitish gray mortar that's quite often seen. Aesthetic choice by Michael Graves for his art object, his sculpture. Possibly one of the largest architectural elements that Michael Graves is noted for are the rotundas in various buildings across the country. The element that he's used often in his buildings and has used here are the round oculus type windows that are here. And the painting of the upper level of the rotunda is a typical color that Graves had used in the 1990s. An opposite color of the paneling is used, shows up very well where the sunlight is striking across one corner. Uses some sort of a turquoise-ish to bluish gray. Typical of his buildings are entry floors. Make use of light and dark colored stone. These are squares upon squares divided by circles. Also, this inner corridor is a typical architectural, artistic trait of Michael Graves. What all this does to a building is when you come in, it doesn't allow you to see everything. You have mysteries. What's over there behind that group of columns? You come around a corner and there's a surprise of some sort. It also allows for a lot of people to enter at once and then disperse. If there should be any kind of emergency where everybody has to be evacuated from the building at once, they can come from the various parts of the library and into this and not jam up trying to get out. The wood paneled circular column that rises up to the ceiling in this atrium area allows a great amount of daylight, natural daylight, to come in through all the windows. This is a very typical Michael Graves aesthetic.
We're looking at the quiet reading room here, showing Michael Graves' types of paneling, his type of library tables with attached lighting. Also, the chairs are at least Michael Graves' type, a lightway that comes in from one of the round towers on the north end of the building. There are 4 of those towers. 2 of them have the ability to let natural light come into the interior. The other two of those towers are used for function such as air handling. Then you have squares. In squares, large square windows, large panels of glass that are square in the windows. If you look at the paneling, they're squares or rectangular shapes. Then it goes completely opposite with the flooring, very curvilinear. Then you have the little table lamps that are wood and a simple rectangular wooden table surface that they're on. The carpeting is Michael Graves' carpeting. He likes to do carpeting to go along with furniture and the whole interior as an artwork expression of himself.
The assignment to host Michael Graves was one that turned out to be much more than I could ever have imagined. I was impressed with him because of his interest in what the building was going to look like, not just in the immediate sense, but in 50 years. It was fun to hear him talk about thinking about how the building would age and how it would function through time. Wonderful characteristics to have in your design architect. It was interesting to hear him talk, as he did at the library, about his vision for the library as an entrance to, particularly the initial entrance to the library as an entrance to learning. His concept of how the building would create within people a desire and even an energy to want to learn, to do things, to experiment. He was very keen on the thought that architecture ought to be inspiring in precisely that sense. And boy, I said, wonderful, what a great thought to have as you went into the design of a building. That it would not simply be aesthetically attractive, which it is, or utilitarian, which it definitely is, but that would it have this aura of inspiration built in as well. I think that speaks volumes for who he is and how he works with communities where he is designing important public buildings. And we were very fortunate to have him in league with us.
What it does for a community when they have a building such as that, it becomes their landmark eventually. Even though in the beginning maybe a lot of people didn't like it, or it only didn't like all of it, only like maybe a little part of it. The longer something exists, the more people come to enjoy using that facility and liking it visually.